Nigeria's Bureau of Public Enterprises, or BPE, announcing plans by the government to privatize independent power projects, or IPPs, in a move seen by industry experts as a step towards ensuring energy sustainability in Africa's most populous country and the largest economy. But how can the subnationals or state governments contribute towards the delivery of power to the people and grow the economy at the bottom of the pyramid? Joining me to discuss this is an industry expert, the founding managing director and CEO of Nigeria Bulk Electricity Company, or NBET, Rumandaka Wonodi. Mr. Wonodi is also the founder and CEO at ZKJ Energy Limited, based in Abuja. Welcome to the program and a happy holiday to you.
Thank you, Bosin.
Thank you.
Happy holiday.
Thank you for coming through. How can state governments or subnationals be mainstreamed into Nigeria's quest for sustainable energy delivery?
Well, so you're talking about the local governments and the state governments. One way, first and foremost and easiest, is electricity access to citizens who are currently do not enjoy any form of power supply. And, we have technology that could drive that. Before now, we had the Rural Electrification Agency that would handle from the federal level, and they still do. They would extend the transmission lines. But now, thankfully, we have the renewable energy technology, which could be leveraged by state governments to drive access to power. At least that's the very first one, that more people get connected to electricity to power their homes and their lives.
Well, what arrangements do you think we have on the ground in terms of the subnationals or the state government's investments in energy development on a state-by-state basis?
Well, I mean, the first is there is this regulation that's been put out by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, the sector regulator, called the Investment in Electricity Network Regulation, which says that any entity, institution, could be state government, could be a company, could invest in either a distribution network or the transmission to improve service within its area, and then by arrangement it could actually make some returns. But in the case of state governments, I think that it's important that the state looks at this as an enabling environment for businesses. So if you have network, and this is one of the things we've seen, that most of the distribution networks are aged, and then the integrity of some of the networks can be challenged. So what they could do is to help enhance the network, expand the network, and allow more power to flow, and look at it the way you look at building a bridge or constructing a road, and not look at getting immediate returns from that. If you have an enabling environment, then you can drive up the GDP of your state or the city, and that should benefit your citizens. So what I would say is that while companies might look at investing in these networks with hope of making some returns, financial returns, that state governments should look at this as a way to provide an enabling environment for businesses to thrive.
So when we talk about this at a state level, what do you think the horizon, an investment horizon, should be for state governments? Because government is a continuum, as we all know. So if you spend 4 years or 8 years in power and you fix a little bit, then the next administration comes, and the next, and the next, and the next. So what do you think the horizon should be for states in order to make sure that the energy is delivered at the state and local governments level, which comes directly under their domain?
Well, the good thing about state funding is that if the fund is available, then you budget for it, and then you put it out and deploy it to work for you. Unlike when a financial institution or a company is looking to make an investment, they think about all the bankability, the returns, and all the commercial agreements and what have you. For state, it's much easier. And if you take a distribution company or a transmission company, within the life of an administration, you can make a lot of difference, because all you need to do is you have the network plan, you have the expansion plan and what you want to achieve, and you can deploy capital over a 4-year period. You can do a lot of good. It might take a generation company, an IPP, about 4 years in project development to even reach a financial close, and another 2 or 3 years for construction. But when it comes to network, it's much easier if the states just budget and then they deploy the funds. They could get a lot done in in 4 years, then the next thing is that, or at least good thing, is that we have excess generation at this moment that could actually flow through these lines.
But unfortunately, are we seeing what you're talking about on the ground right now with the state governments in practice?
Well, not quite. I know that, I'm sure you're following the news that Lagos State government has put out a consultation paper and is trying to rejig the way power is supplied to homes and businesses within Lagos State. It has a lot of good intentions, but at the same time, I think that it would lead to a lot of, there'll be a lot of challenges from the federal government on what could happen, especially when it comes to regulation and license. It's not a matter of rights, but the boundaries as it is for now.
Where would there be such a problem, as it were, between the federal and the state governments if all of them, if both are working towards sustainable energy delivery to the people? Where would that be a problem?
Well, I think it shouldn't be a problem. And as a matter of fact, the structures that we have in place should work to some extent. I'm not sure that the regulation of whether it's the federal or the state is the issue, but when, for instance, the state wants to have what it called the independent system operator, which handles planning and dispatch within the footprint. Well, if there are large enough generation companies that are connected to the grid, then you begin to ask which of the system operators will override who, and who actually calls the shot about dispatch and scheduling of power plants. Well, these are very technical issues, but yes, there will be lines for challenge, and then someone have to work and straighten things out.
Who should straighten this out? If we don't straighten it out, there will always be this problem. We never deliver power to the people. So is it the NERC? Is it the Ministry of Power?
Well, I think this might actually, it might be a considerable issue about who actually should go there. But, Boston, let's just go back to what could be done. I think within the architecture of what is available today, state governments, if they actually look at power as in making it an enabling environment, then they can deploy some capital to help straighten out and enhance distribution, and then provide access to power for people who are not connected to the grid, and they could use RE for that.
Now, the BP is announcing plans to sell the 5 IPP GenCos. Do you think this will improve power delivery?
In the long run, yes, because it deepens the reform. And one of the cardinals of the reform is that you get the government out of operating power plants or operating the sector and transfer it to the private sector. So in selling the 5 out of the 10 generation plants, that deepens the reform. But in the short term, I don't think that it's going to make a whole lot of difference in power supply. I think it's also a revenue thing for the federal government. The federal government had always shown on the income side that the sale of some of the government assets would boost government revenue. So the sale of the NIPP power plants is being contemplated for the past many years, and now I think there's a new push that cancel the arrangement with previous bidders or preferred bidders, and they're starting afresh. And I think, in all honesty, it's more about government revenue now than immediate power improvement, because what government is focused is the Presidential Power Initiative that looks to expand the transmission network, the distribution network, and grow generation, new generation in the next couple of years.
Okay, let's continue this conversation after the break. We'll add inflation, exchange rates, and other variables into Nigeria's energy conversation. Stay with us, Rumandaka Wonodi, founding managing director and CEO of NBET, and of course, the CEO and founder at ZKJ Energy Limited. We'll be right back, everyone. Welcome to the show. Energy remains one of Nigeria's intractable problems, and every administration practically throws everything and anything into it, trying to deliver power both for commercial and private use. Unfortunately, not significant progress has been made. This conversation looks to find insights into how the subnationals can work with the federal authorities toward a common goal of delivering power to the people. My guest, Rumandaka Wonodi, pioneer, managing director, and CEO of NBET, and founder at ZKJ Energy Limited in our Abuja studios. Rumandaka, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. What should be the model of intervention by state governments in terms of energy or power delivery at the grassroots levels? In terms of, could we continue to be fossil fuel energy or renewables? What would be the easiest and why?
Well, thank you very much. I think that, first and foremost, you also have to ask what part of the country you're dealing with, right? So if you're in Lagos, for instance, where there is a lot of, you have challenge with land, then you might want to do something differently. You might do gas, which is clean energy, and in doing that, which Lagos State government had pointed out that they want to control some of that generation because they want to eliminate a lot of alternative generation that burns diesel and heavy fuel oil. So, but if you're somewhere within the corridors of the Niger Delta, you might also look at gas to the extent that you have some flared gas and marginal oil fields that could be used for small generations. And you're in the far north, definitely, or any other place where there's land, you want to look at solar and deploying solar. So it will all depend on the area, but most quickly, I think if it's on a small scale, you can do rooftop solar. Solar systems are getting more efficient and very easy to deploy. So yes, I would call that as number one, and then you can look at burning clean fuel like natural gas.
But who should state governments look to deliver power to in a cost-efficient manner and in a business-like manner, considering the issue of subsidy that we've run through for many years and many decades, and this still looks like a hole without an end?
Well, that is why, to a large extent, the renewable energy solar is favored, because once you make the capex investment, then the marginal cost of generating power is low, unlike in the case of a fossil fuel that you have to burn gas. So to the extent that gas remains at $3.30 going into power, that number would always be challenging for consumers or for state government. I think that for state government, the focus should be in creating an enabling environment for businesses, because at the end of the day, if you do that and you can attract manufacturing and SMEs grow, then you have a more thriving economy. And I would always say that, an employed citizen is more likely to pay 60 naira, 40 naira per kilowatt hour than an unemployed citizen paying 10 naira. So governments, when they do these things, should focus on enabling business, because when you enable business, then the citizens can do better.
What about social interventions? Folks see power as a public utility. So should state government deliver power first to business centers, socio-economic centers, rather than to houses, to homes?
Well, no, I mean, you can make it available to homes. This is what we're saying. You help and invest the infrastructure that gets it to homes and businesses at the same time. But if you have to have a priority of who to subsidize or who to provide an enabling environment, you should start with the businesses and then the social investment centers like hospitals, like schools, street lights. Those things serve the community, but on an individual basis, you just extend the light and hope that people pay for them. So, let me say this again. There are social investment areas that government is in government scope to take care of. Schools should be electrified and powered by the government. Hospitals, the roads, to provide security, you have to have street lights and what have you. Then provide power to little market, cottage industries, and wherever they gather so that they can be productive. So you have to have your priorities. the idea, and this is one of the things that we've done and we've not done very well, which is to provide subsidies for consumption rather than for production. And state governments that will do well will be the ones that target enabling environment for businesses, SMEs, and then the social investment centers.
So in your opinion, who do you think will have easier and faster provision of this energy access to the people, the federal government or the states?
The state government. The state government definitely know what is around their states. So this is all the conversation that's being had about, how much of the things should be driven from Abuja, or rather what should be driven by the state. The state should be responsible for, trying to grow their economy. They know the people, they have the footprints they should have a state development plan and be able to drive industrial centers and grow their IGR. Yeah, so this should be state government doing all these.
How much dislocation do you think high inflation exchange rate is costing the government in achieving adequate energy delivery?
Pretty much. You know that one of the strong pedestals for the power sector reform is that we get to a point where everyone pays cost-reflective tariff. Now, which means market-based tariff that the prudent cost of production is covered and paid by the consumers. Now, you follow what's going on. The prices of items have all been rising, food stuff. Now, there are some statistics that put it that some families and many average families spend as much as 70% on feeding alone. Does not include rent, does not include healthcare, does not include school fees. And therefore, whenever the regulator and the distribution companies try to raise tariff or government, there's a pushback. That pushback is not just because there is not enough power being supplied, as most people will claim, but the fact and the truth of the matter is that people cannot afford to pay anymore. Therefore, as the foreign exchange continues to go up and there is inflation, and NERC, the regulator by its business rules and is required, and in the multi-year tariff, to adjust the tariff, and most times it's going up. So without that, a pushback, you will never have a cost-reflective tariff, and then that hinders and government plans to really drive the reform in the sector. So at the end of the day, the little money that government has for the sector goes into subsidy rather than capital investments that will help deliver more power to people.
So on a final note, what is the way out? Show me.
Well, Abasin, I can tell you one thing. There is a roadmap. There are laws, there are regulations. I think that the first thing that we need is that we need leadership. We need leadership in the sector, we need leadership in the government, but there are a lot of times you've seen conflicting messages come out from MDAs, and I must say that to some extent I feel the pity of the regulator. Tariffs are set, and then it's called back from the National Assembly or it's called back from the ministry, and then there's always the threat of canceling the privatization, and the capital market gets very nervous about making investment in the power sector. So the very first thing for me is that the leadership and the roadmap for the reform has to be steady and encouraging for businesses, and government should also manage the relationship between the citizens and the companies. But leadership is the first way, and then every other thing we have it, and we just have to continue to implement it diligently.
Hold it steady.
Yeah,
leadership
hold it
level.
steady.
Hold it steady. Thank you so much, energy expert Rumandaka Wonodi, founding managing director and CEO of Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trading Company, and founder CEO at ZKJ Energy Limited. Thank you very much for your time.